Booktube. All right, we're back. I think this is part 5 of my 12 Nay Q&A, celebrating the fact that this channel is not at 12,000 subscribers and never will be. And we are at Culture Fan. Culture Fan says, "Hey Steve, you'll get to 12K. No. Unless I do another BroTube video, that might get me there. On to the questions. Did you like Idiot America? How Stupidity Became a Virtue in the Land of the Free by Charles Pierce? I did. And what do you think of the author and speaker Chris Hedges? I've never liked him, especially as a speaker. Good Lord. Have some respect for your audience. Make yourself interesting to listen to. And tone, not content. Just, if I want to listen to a funeral dirge, I know where to go. There are plenty of Catholic churches. Gunnar says, what's your opinion of Jerusalem by Alan Moore? I mentioned it in the last Q&A. I liked it the second time around. I thought it was genuinely substantial in the second read along. My first read through of it, I didn't really care for it at all. Second time, I saw a lot more that was going on, and I wonder what I'd think in a third time. PRCZEK02 says, are also getting close to 4 million views in total. I wish I knew how to find that. Once upon a time, I could see that in the YouTube studio. But the YouTube studio has changed once again. Of course, no YouTubers are ever consulted when YouTube studio changes. Totally wrong. That is true. No YouTubers are ever consulted when the system that they use to upload their videos change. The company just does that, and you'll all adapt. Even though we wouldn't exist without you, you'll all adapt. We're going to make this change and that change. We don't care if you like it or not. I used to be able to see total channel views very easily in YouTube Studio. I can't see it anymore. I'll take your word for it. And 4 million is a big number, but I wish I could see something like that. Leo Perkar says, I've been reading The End of the Ice and the Uninhabitable Earth and been watching YouTubers that either fearmonger or don't take anything seriously. So I ask you, is it really okay to have children knowing what the future holds? You don't know what the future holds. I think the world could do with a lot fewer humans just in general. But and I also don't like the mindless imperative that is imposed on married couples right away, instantaneously. In fact, they don't even need to wait to get married. If you're going steady, as my generation used to put it, with someone for over a year, you'll start getting questions about children even before you get married. But once you're married, it's all anybody ever wants to know. And if you are married to the same person for 4 years, and at the end of those 4 years you don't have any kids, it's literally all anyone will talk to you about. So you will go to a friend of yours who is also your car mechanic with a serious problem in your car. And you'll say, so what do you think this is? And the car mechanic will just put the tools away and say, all right, so let's talk about kids. How come you don't have any kids? Literally, it'll be the only thing that anyone talks to you about. I hate that. Absolutely hate that. You can have an extremely fulfilled life without having children. But you shouldn't ever be afraid to do it. You don't know what the future holds at all. The future that you're looking at as being in the grip of climate change could also be a future in which you get a shot at age 13 and don't get cancer. So I wouldn't think about it that way at all. And there are some scientists out there who just adamantly claim that there is no impending climate change. Some of them are fairly well credentialed. They're not just raving nut jobs. They're fairly well credentialed, and they say this is just a minor variation. This is not anything to worry about. I think the huge preponderance of environmental scientists say that there is something to worry about. But even then, I wouldn't let it inhibit you if you want to have a kid. Also, can you give us recommendations on sci-fi books that are about climate change? Well, the one that comes to mind is New York 2140 by the great Kim Stanley Robinson. That is at least partly about climate change. It's also a terrific book, terrific novel to read. Kim Barrett says, thoughts on Fran Lebowitz? She's a genius. Just obviously great. She is a Hogarth or a Vermeer working in our midst. It's nice that she can be independently wealthy from doing that. It's nice that the world knows that that's what she is, instead of just ignoring her. But it's thrilling to see. It's just thrilling to see. It's thrilling to know she's out there doing new work. Scorchter Schwarzensticken says, number 1, do you like Frank Zappa? Here's Frank Zappa again. I don't like him, no. Number 2, thoughts on Eric Hobsbawm. If any, which books do you recommend? I don't recommend any of his books. He's a boring author. He might have been just recently the subject of a laudatory biography by a biographer I really like, but he is a boring author. I don't care about his theories. I don't care about his researches. I don't care about his school of thought or any of his adoring pupils. I've said this many, many times on this channel. if you forget that your main goal is to entertain your readers, then I don't care about the rest of it at all. You're a bad writer. So there it is. He's a boring writer. I wouldn't wish him on anybody to read. There are 80 million historians who are more interesting. Number 3, did you ever have financial problems getting all your dogs to the vet when they needed? Is other animals' health care as expensive in the U.S. and the one for Homo sapiens? Well, it's not as expensive as the one for Homo sapiens. Human health care in America is a crime, an absolute crime. It is dystopian horror. I know people in other countries who hear about what the American healthcare system is like, and these are adult, bill-paying, job-holding down adults. They simply don't believe it. They assume that it is, to use that infamous phrase, fake news. They simply don't believe it, and they don't believe it because it's different from their own system. They acknowledge that healthcare systems will be different for different countries. They don't believe it because it's horrific. It's dystopian, and they're right about that. So, what is wrong with the iPad? Oh my. Well, anyway, no, there's nothing more expensive than that in America. It costs you $575 just to go to the hospital, just to go to the building in an ambulance in America. It costs you that much money just to get there. But it's still really expensive, and getting more expensive astronomically all the time. Pet care in America. Like, for instance, there is a world-class pet hospital within literal walking distance of where I am right now. Angel Memorial Hospital is the name of it. And they are great. If you want your dog's bone marrow replaced, you're going to go to Angel. If you're in America, anywhere, you're going to have your dog flown to Angel and pay through the nose to have that done, because that's the best place for it to be done. But everything else at Angel is correspondingly expensive. I took a dog of mine there once, and I was concerned there was a health problem with that dog, so it was a health emergency, so I had nowhere else to go. That they're going to be able to deal with it there. So I went, and when it was all over, I got my itemized bill, and I looked. I was there with the receptionist, and I said, "What's this $75 charge? Consulting fee? I'm seeing the charges for seeing the doctor, but this consulting fee is first. It's $75 for a consulting fee. What is that?" And she said, "That's for consulting Angel." I wasn't consulting Angel. I was consulting a doctor. She said, "That's for consulting Angel Memorial Hospital." And I said, "So what you're telling me is you charged me $75 to walk in the door." And she just went, "But it's true. That's what it was. They charged me $75 just to show up." But no, I've always managed. It isn't. Angel Memorial is if you want a bone marrow transplant in your dog, or if you have an emergency and you're right nearby. But I have vets otherwise that are a lot less expensive, couldn't possibly have a business if they weren't. So you manage to get things done. It's a lot more expensive when, as I've mentioned on this channel many times, I've often had big baseball teams of dogs, 4 or 5 at a time. Has not been uncommon at all. Not at all. There are people alive today who probably, a couple of them watch this channel, who remember the days when it was just a house full of dogs. Beagles, usually. It's only very rarely that I will have just one dog. But even with crowds of dogs, yeah, it's an expense, but you make do because it's the most important expense. Number 4, since you are the Pope of Booktube. Oh no, I am not the Pope of Booktube. What on earth is that? I am not. Who would be the anti-Pope? Brian at Bookish. Yes, Brian at Bookish. Those of you who are brand new to the channel, he is my arch nemesis. He is my eyebrow baby. He would be the anti-Pope, yes. If the only way to make him anti-Pope is to accept the mantle of Pope myself, then I'll do it. Question number 4. Since the Nobel Prize of Literature stopped being awarded in 2015, as the funerary respect, would you consider doing your daily Nobel Prize series, in which once a day or once a week you made a video talking about the work of one of the winners in chronological order? Aren't there people doing that? I could swear I've seen Booktube channels like that. I don't know that I have a lot to say. The Nobel Prize and I haven't often seen eye to eye. I've always thought their choices were interesting, sometimes historically controversial. I only dropped them. They only became dead to me when they gave the prize to Dylan. After that, I knew that they didn't care about the history of their institution. They didn't care about the name that they built up or the cachet that comes along with it. They only care about possessing a news cycle. So who cares about them? I don't anymore. I don't know. Such a series might get awful tedious, awful quick. Tripp says, with all the focus in maybe Midrash mainly on Christianity and Judaism, do you fear we are leaving out an important demographic, the Donoghue-gonauts? Whenever two or more of you are gathered in my name, there Bean and I are also. I I realize that it's a joke, but I do wish we had some maybe Midrash people who were weighing in on Islam. That would be a lot of fun. I don't know that there are, to my mind, off the top of my head, I can't think of any Islamic booktubers making videos in English. If there are, I don't know of any. I mean, about Islam, not their private faith. I mean, where they're talking about, works about Islam. John Garganaraka says, you occasionally reference Kathleen Sheen's The Love Letter as the worst novel ever written. It is the worst novel ever written. What about this book makes it so particularly bad? Well, if it were just one thing, it wouldn't be the worst novel ever written, now would it? It's literally everything. Literally everything about the book, from the writing, the pacing, the characters, if you want to call them that, the authorial tics, the bits that the author does over and over again throughout the book, the misrepresentation of basic facts. There isn't a thing. There isn't a single thing. Not a single thing about it. It's everything about it. So I can't single any one thing out. And we're at the end here. KMM says, what do you think about Norton suspending publication of the new Philip Roth biography? Well, we got to this. This came up, I brought this up in an earlier Q&A, which is that ordinarily I would be dead set against it. Because it's not censorship, because they're freeing Bailey from his contract. So he can sell his book somewhere else or self-publish it. It's still entirely possible that in the next year we'll see this book again. It might even get a second wind due to the Streisand effect. That, if everybody's talking about it, everybody's going to want to read it. It could be that Norton, in pulling this book from their list and then bringing it out of print, have done Bailey a great favor. That could very well be true, even though I'm not sure he'll be in a position to enjoy it, since he's been thoroughly condemned in the court of public opinion for sexual misconduct of the grossest nature, and could be condemned in a court of law. I don't know. I think all of the charges that are being laid against him have run out the clock on the statute of limitations. So it could just be that no reputable publishing house publishes his work again, which is pretty bad. When you're as lauded a biographer as him, that's pretty bad. But it's not a death sentence. It's not censorship. It means that some other publisher can publish him, or he can publish himself and expect really good sales, especially due to the controversy about this book. But ordinarily, I would be against it. Ordinarily, I would say that I think the publisher should have the strength of their convictions and make a separation between the art and the artist. That, who cares? I mean, we do care. As a publisher, we care that so many serious accusations of sexual misconduct have been brought against this author. And maybe even go so far as to do what W.W. Norton has already done, which is to donate a large amount of money to charitable causes, social causes, that sort of thing, that address the plight of women as victims of gross sexual misconduct at the hands of men who were in positions of power or whatnot. Norton has made large donations to such groups and publicize that fact. It could be that they make those donations but keep the book in print. That would have been a compromise and ordinarily I might have been saying that. I would have said, all right, well, make your donations if you want to. Put out a statement saying that if these accusations against one of your authors are true, you deplore it. And if they are found to be true in a court of law, you will drop him. But that you're not going to drop him on the strength of internet rumors. Ordinarily, I would say that, and there's a part of me that still wants to say that. There's a part of me that very much still wants to say, we should get back to you're guilty when you're proven guilty. You're not guilty when 12 people on Twitter say you're guilty. You're guilty when a court of law proves you guilty, and not before then. It's easy for blue check marks to gin up the appearance of a mob on social media. That is easy to do. And some people lie about accusations. Some people misremember. We read a letter from the New Yorker just yesterday about how one writer raising the question of maybe the accused victimizer also misremembers. Maybe he also is shaping his memories to make things more voluntary. If there's anybody that I would suspect that of, it would be Blake Bailey. So that could easily be true. Ordinarily, I might say walk a line between those two. Don't take the book out of print. Obviously not. And that's not censorship, but it is working against the free flow of ideas, which is against your mission. But and you know, if Blake Bailey had been accused of I don't know, bank robbery or something like that, I would be saying that. 100% I would be saying that. I'd be saying, who cares what he's accused of in his private life? Keep his book in print. But when I was reading his book, I was thinking the whole time, every time he came across some gross sexual misconduct on the part of Philip Roth, horrible manipulations, horrible callousness, every time he came to one of those things, he immediately started excusing it, casting it as misremembering on the part of the women involved, or sour grapes on the part of the women involved, or vindictiveness on the part of the women involved. Never Philip. Never his Philip. Philip was never doing anything except just being tormented by a libidinous nature. And I wasn't to page 200 in the book before I was saying out loud while I was reading it, why do you keep excusing this behavior? You're not his lawyer. That's not the part of a biographer to do. You're talking about objective things. No one would look at this behavior and say it's excusable. And here you are trying to excuse it in the flimsiest, dumbest ways. And then 200 more pages of the same thing. And then 200 more pages. Almost at page 900, Philip Roth is like 100 years old, where anybody would consider this kind of behavior grotesque and embarrassing. But is it portrayed that way by his biographer? No. No, it is not. That was very noticeable to me while I was reading the book before there were any scandals. I was thinking, this is really creepy. You're sounding more like his wingman than his biographer. And what is he accused of? The exact same kind of behavior as the behavior that he spent 900 pages excusing in his book. For me, that changes things. For me, that changes a lot. For me, that is like if Ernest Hemingway had written a biography of Martha Gellhorn. I would want it pulled by Norton. I wouldn't want them to run it, as I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. And it would be the author actively perpetrating a lie for personal reasons. The same thing is true here. When the scandal broke and I saw that the kinds of things Blake Bailey is accused of are exactly the kind of things that he spends 900 pages excusing in his book, then I was okay with Norton saying, it's not just that it's bad for us as a business matter. That's why they did it. Let's keep in mind. They did it because they didn't want to be, hooked to this guy in case he goes down in flames. But not only is this bad for us on a business sense, but it's bad for us as publishers. It throws a huge spotlight on what could be a huge amount of unreliability in this book. I have no idea if any of the people involved in that biography have come forward to say, this is wrong, this is fraudulent. I have no idea if the accusations against Blake Bailey are only confined to him as a person or if they have spilled over to him as an author. I haven't kept up with the story for the most Steve reason possible. That some of you are just going to be doing your own facepalm. Some of you are going to know already the exact moment when I stopped being interested in the story. You're practically going to be able to say it with me. The minute the book went out of print. The minute it was no longer a new release in the American market in the 15 or 16 genres that I read, the minute it wasn't on my beat, I stopped caring about it. That's terrible, I know, but it's true. The minute that I knew that it was not suspended but out of print, then it fell off my radar completely. So I don't know any subsequent details to that story. I don't know if it has progressed. I might be willing to predict that it will, but one way or another, I'm sure that's not the last we've seen of this book. And W.W. Norton, whether it's for good reasons or not, has made it a collector's item. Suddenly, everybody's rushing to the store to try and find a copy before the store gets rid of it. So ordinarily, I would be on the fence. Ordinarily, I would have a lot of negative things to say about Norton's decision. But in this case, a couple of book reviewers, this was going to be the big chorus event of the year. This was going to be the big must-review-it event where everybody reviews this book. And if the scandal had broken before the book came out, I don't know what would have happened. We wouldn't have gotten that course. As it is, quite a few people sounded off on the book. And a few of those reviewers, much like myself, I reviewed it for the Christian Science Monitor, a few of those reviewers did not accept Blake Bailey's boys will be boys attitude towards Philip Roth's womanizing. Instead, a few reviewers said, this is appalling. Not just the behavior, but the biographer's reaction to the behavior. It's all appalling. Few of us did react that way. And I have to say, the book section editors out there in the world who allowed those reviews with that kind of sour deadpanning to stand as their journal's official verdict on this book, those book reviewers look really good right now. Those reviews look really good right now. And the reviewers, and there were plenty of them, who did turn a blind, excusing eye towards that horrible behavior and the weird way it's justified. The reviewers who did that, well, they've got a ding on their reputation, don't they? Because you don't know what other crimes they're excusing. So one way or another, it's a fascinating subject. I was looking forward to this. And as I've said on this channel many times, I'm sorry to go long on this, but you asked a question right on my specialty, right on my employment. I was looking forward to this. You all know that. I love, every once in, probably 2 or 3 times a year, there will be a book that will do this, where everyone will write about it. Everyone will. It's usually a book like this, where it's not, a lot of people don't write about biographies, they don't write about nonfiction at all, but this is nonfiction about a writer of fiction. So it blurs that boundary. Like, for instance, the next one where I could see maybe a version of this happening would be the new Jonathan Franzen book. Jonathan Franzen has a new novel coming out. I, right now, am willing to go on record and say that I am 15 to maybe 18% sure that the exact kind of scandal is going to break when that book comes out. The exact same things, the exact same kind of scandal with the exact same effect. I think 2021, when it comes to this sort of thing, might be the hour of reckoning for dude bro gods. Philip Roth is a terrible author. He's a terrible writer. But people love him because he venerates some idea of what their idea of a man is. Somehow, a man as an author is somehow validated by this guy. And Jonathan Franzen does too. He very much does too. The dude bros that I've mentioned on this channel, who I've mentioned that they know that Cormac McCarthy might write another book before he dies, and they get up in the morning, and before they pee, before they kiss their wife, before they see whether or not their kids are still alive, before they do anything, they refresh Amazon on Cormac McCarthy's page to see if a new book has been announced. That's the first thing they do. It's prayer. It's the first thing they do. And they did it for this Blake Bailey biography of Philip Roth. If it had been a Blake Bailey biography of Martha Gellhorn or Zelda Fitzgerald, they wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have cared. They wouldn't have cared at all. They wouldn't have cared at all, because there's an element here of dude bro, a strong element. But because it was Philip Roth, a guy's writer, a guy who treats women like garbage, then they would go on Amazon and refresh that page to see if there was a new date for Blake Bailey's Philip Roth biography. And when it was, they immediately all pre-ordered it. And those same people are doing this for this upcoming Franzen novel is coming out, the first book in like a series of 9 or 10 or something like that. I've been waiting for that story, for #MeToo, to come to Jonathan Franzen for quite some time. I have a feeling that those things tend to be orchestrated towards the limelight. It tends to be not when there's a preponderance of evidence, but when there's a strong limelight on the person who is guilty or the person who's going to be accused. I'm 15 to 18% sure that the same kind of scandal is going to break about Jonathan Franzen when his book is new, when it is either just about to come out or has been out for a couple of weeks. One way or another, he's another example of that, and I just... the sooner we get away from this, the better. But anyway, that is it. That is the last question. Unless I missed some, but if I missed some, sorry about that, but we'll have other Q&As. That is the 12-nay Q&A for this channel, celebrating the fact that we are never going to reach 12,000 subscribers. I just miscounted. That's all. We're a long way off from 12,000 subscribers, and we're never going to get there. So thank you once again, all of you, for all these questions. They were wonderful, as always. As you could tell from these Q&As, I could go on at great length about a lot of these things. I'm trying not to. But these are enormous fun. Even though we are never going to get to 12K, we will certainly do a Q&A for June. We can do at least one of these a month anyway, no matter what else, regardless of any artificial number. Or if one of you wants to tell me either how I can look at total channel views, either one of you wants to walk me through how to do that, or if one of you wants to just tell me when it passes 4 million. That's a perfect occasion for a Q&A, if ever I heard one. That's a big number. One way or another, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I will be back. Thank you, Booktube.